today. It is Masters Week, and it's Augusta National. Troy, fire it up. Share my screen. That would be splendid. My website, rickgehman.com. Let's start with the golf course. Augusta National. Greg, it is unique in so many ways. One, because it's the only major championship that we get to see the same course. Two, just because it is unique in its nature. There's always kind of little tweaks, but at the same time, it's the same course. I don't know how they're able to pull that off, but what types of golfers have we seen find success here in the past? And what types of golfers are you expecting to find success here for this year?
Golfers that are very well-rounded, which is so obvious. It's called the Masters because it takes complete mastery of the game. I mean, you look at this golf course and it's the toughest greens to hit on the PGA Tour. It is the most difficult strokes gain around the green golf course on the PGA Tour. And it's the most difficult strokes gain putting golf course that we play in professional golf. So it is extremely challenging in every area of the game. And off the tee, it's quite long. So it really requires a complete test. But since nobody is perfect and nobody has mastered all areas of the game, it tends to lean very heavily towards I think, ball striking and short game, which is why you see, which is very rare, strokes gained tee to green as the top statistic in that category. That's because that covers three areas, and it covers the majority of the game. 75% of the game.
The statistics are jarring. You mentioned a lot of them, just how difficult it is, not only putting, but also around the greens. But from just the viewpoint, like, why is that? Right. I mean, there's a lot of undulation. There are, kind of quadrants on some of these greens. You have, even though, if they're 5,000 square feet, they play much smaller than that. Like, what is it that actually makes it difficult?
Well, I mean, look at the green at hole number 14. There's no bunkers on that hole. It's a slight dog leg to the left, slightly uphill, big green with no bunkers. Yet it has 3 tiers from side to side. And depending on that hole location, it can be a near impossible hole, and it can be an extremely scoreable hole. So hole location has so much to do with it, and you have to get your ball in the right position. So you can miss greens because of poor tee shots, not even hitting it behind a tree or hitting it into water or hitting it into, into brush. You can hit it to the wrong side of the fairway and miss the green as a result. If you get on the wrong side of these ridges, the ball will roll away, and sometimes it will roll off the green. Sometimes it rolls right very close to the hole. So because they're so rolly, because they're so fast, it becomes quite challenging to get your ball close. You have to be extremely precise.
There's something so simple about it, yet so complex about it, right? It's not tricked up with bunkers. It's not tricked up with, little tiny fairways and thick rough. It's not. It is just contours and contours that will beat your butt, Greg, because that's what they're doing.
And what's really cool about it is there's, like you said, it's not tricked up. There's a way to play every hole. There's a way to attack every hole location. But in order to play it that way, you have to be very disciplined. You have to be very smart, and you have to be sharp on and around the greens. Because like we've talked about this with Tiger, we've talked about this with Rory McIlroy. If you employ or deploy, I don't know which one's correct, but if you utilize a conservative strategy, which has been talked about a lot as being the way to play Augusta National, you have to be really sharp with your lag putting, which is challenging because of the contours you mentioned. You have to be really sharp with chip shots that may be in easy locations, but because there's so much speed in those greens, they're not necessarily give-me's. So you have to be disciplined, and at the same time, you have to be really sharp. And I think sometimes in order to win, you need a little bit of luck on your side too.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I was pulling up the weather forecast here, or at least the last forecast that I saw. So here's the first couple days of the week. I'm looking at Thursday, Greg. 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms, windy, an inch and a half of rainfall. Maybe some stuff on Wednesday and overnight. Presumably, at least early in the week, Augusta National will play softer, will play longer. Is this actionable enough to change anything? Is it a little bit more of a lean towards the longer hitters, or is this a nothing burger to you?
Well, I think the winds are a significant factor, right? And the draw is fascinating to me. You use the wind tracker website for weather often, right?
I do, yes.
So I was on there today, and it looks like that rain on Thursday is mostly before 2:00. So like an inch to an inch and a half of rain before 2:00.
Wow.
So with wind gusts that are up to like 38 miles an hour, the gusts, what you have there, 5 to 10 miles an hour, maybe. Oh, that's Tuesday. Thursday, you have 15 to 20 gusts to 30. Yeah, I saw up to 38. So that could be extremely challenging. But because there's so much rain, and because it's going to stop, I wonder if they delay play, right? Because if they play through it, there's a clear advantage for the late early guys. On Friday, it looks to be a little calmer in the morning and a little more difficult in the afternoon. I think the south winds, the southerly winds, even if they're like south-southeast, that general direction is a lot easier than the westerly direction. And that creates quite an interesting situation. I really think if they play Thursday morning as scheduled, it's a huge advantage for Thursday PM, Friday AM. If it switches, if they delay play and the early late guys play late, right, which they essentially would play late.
Right.
Now the late early guys play all day Friday in a westerly wind, which is much more difficult. I mean, you're talking about holes like 13 and 15 playing at least partially into the wind, where they're crosswinds with the southerly wind. That could make a huge difference. So I do think in general with the softer golf course, it leans towards length. The draw is just fascinating to me.